Good morning, everybody. We are here at the Missouri Botanical Garden this morning. I'm Christina, and this is Cassidy. And today we're going to walk around the garden and show you what's still in bloom right now. And also, as you can see, I'll turn the camera around and get a little closer, which things are beginning to show their fall color.
And so this is a staghorn sumac. We're actually here at the entrance to the English Woodland Garden, and this one really stuck out. This is actually a single leaf with all these opposite leaflets here. And sumacs are one of the early changing fall color plants, so that's probably something that you're seeing a lot in landscapes right now. Out at Shaw Nature Reserve, they have a lot of sumac that's changing color. These sort of small trees or big shrubs, and you can see it's got this sort of reddish orange color to it, and certainly not the only thing that's changing color here, so we're going to go show you what else is changing.
You can see everything around here is still pretty green, other than that sumac here in the English Woodland Garden.
And it is, if you've been itching for fall color, and you've probably seen some in your neighborhood, lots of sugar maples are changing colors, the bright sort of orangey yellow maple trees that you'd be seeing right now. Tulip trees are another one they have really bright yellow leaves, and that's actually one of the more pronounced colors that we're seeing right now in the garden as a whole is yellow. Of course, as I say that, we're coming up here on this nice pretty dark red. These are Sassafras, part of the original grove that was here when the garden was founded. Sassafras are real neat because you can see this one has this sort of, and this looks like a dinosaur foot to me a little bit, and then this is from the same tree. So different color and different leaf shape. So sassafras is one of those trees, mulberry is another, that can have a lot of variation in the types of leaves that come off of the same tree. So really pretty color here on the sassafras grove in the mausoleum garden. And still plenty of green too, so definitely not at peak, but lots and lots of color change.
And someone just mentioned in the comments going out to visit Babbler State Park over the weekend and seeing quite a bit of fall color out there. And we were just talking with one of our arborists about how there's sort of an urban heat bubble here in the city. And so a lot of times that will cause the color to change a little bit earlier. You'll see the peak color a little bit earlier out away from that heat bubble. So, for example, I myself was out at Shaw Nature Reserve over the weekend, and the color out there definitely looks a week or even 2 weeks ahead of what we're seeing here at the garden in the city. And here's some of that nice yellow that Cassidy was talking about. You can see it here with this hickory.
So this is a yellow buckeye actually.
Oh, you're right.
We're gonna make our way to the hickory. That's really, to me, when we get there, kind of the star right now in the garden. But yeah, this yellow buckeye here, and you can see it has it's called compound palmate leaves. So each of these leaflets kind of like a hand. So that's a really easy identifying feature for buckeye in general, Aesculus. And so this one has some nice yellow color. I mean, it's not all color. You can see a little bit of other wear on the leaves as they get ready for fall. But yeah, let's make our way over to that, to the hickory. And some of the other trees I've seen, again, just sort of out and about in the city of St. Louis, the ash trees are changing color. There's a lot of really pretty ash planted along streets throughout the city.
Wait here for the sprinkler to pass.
Maybe we'll
Go this way.
go this way. You can see it here now as we come out onto the knolls. There's these cluster of hickory trees here, and they get this really bright golden color, and they're one of the first trees to really fully embrace the fall color change here at the garden. And to me it's pretty stunning. And then just underneath them, actually, you can see more yellow. So that's a different Aesculus. So we were showing the yellow buckeye earlier. And this is actually our bottle brush buckeye path. So much more shrubby relative to the other buckeyes you might be more familiar with, like Ohio buckeye and the yellow and red buckeyes. And you can see it's starting to get some yellow color as well. And again, as we were mentioning, the palmate shape of the leaves is a good identifier for knowing that it's an Aesculus. But yeah, let's get a little bit closer to the hickory tree. So the garden has, I think, 2, 3 of these hybrid hickories here, and we just have this super bright yellow color.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much you can point the camera upwards, but it's just the whole tree all changed at once. You know, some of the other trees like maples, you know, you'll see the top of the crown kind of change color first, and the rest of the tree is green. I mean, it's just nothing but a sea of yellow from the ground all the way up to the top.
Yeah, and it was not like this even just last week. So it really does happen fast. And when this buckeye does all turn yellow, it's a really cool experience to walk through like this. So sometime in the next couple weeks, I would expect you'd be able to do that.
This is, I think, always really interesting. There's one little flower hanging on.
Wow.
These flower, I think, in
like August, July?
Yeah, and sometime over the summer. So this is really late, but it just happens to have this one last little flower spike here, and you can kind of see why it's called a bottle brush buckeye, because that looks And I've got a baby at home right now. I'm very familiar with the bottle brush, and this looks exactly like that. That cluster that you just look like you can stick down in a baby bottle and clean the sides out. So that's sort of where it gets its common name from. And yeah, just a few little spikes of flowers hanging on while the rest of the plant is changing yellow and getting ready for winter.
Oh, looks like we've got another sprinkler to dodge here.
We'll be dodging sprinklers throughout the morning, and that's one of the reasons that the garden is closed on Mondays, is so that tasks like irrigation can take place and not interrupt the visitor experience.
And we've had so little rain lately that it's definitely necessary right now.
And we'll see a little bit more yellow coming here around the corner, actually from a couple of different trees. So these taller trees here that are showing off that yellow color, those are actually the Osage orange trees. So those leaves are turning yellow, and those giant softball sized fruits are falling from the tree. If we were to stay here long enough, you'd hear some of them, because they're not quiet when they come off the tree and make their way to the ground.
Yeah, here's some here. I know that we showed these off a couple tours ago, but for anyone who wasn't tuned into that one, just in case you're not familiar by name, I'm sure you've probably seen these if you live in the area. These are the Osage orange fruits.
And just continuing with the yellow theme, there's a red bud, and you can see it's starting to change its color. So yellow is pretty typical there as well. Again, just lots and lots of yellow throughout the garden, intermingled with some of the other fall colors. And actually, while we're here, I hadn't noticed this earlier, but there's another sumac as well. So just to kind of drive home the point that that's definitely one of those early harbingers of fall, so to speak. This is a much darker red color here on this sumac.
Yes, the one we started with was kind of an orange red for anyone who's just tuning in. And this is much more of a burgundy color.
There's the inside of an Osage orange. Looks like a critter's probably been snacking on it. Very dense. We'll leave that back in case they get hungry and come back for more. And in addition to the sumac and all the fall color, the foliage we're talking about, it's not, the flowers aren't done yet either. So sitting right here underneath this sumac is aromatic aster. So that's in the sunflower family, Asteraceae. And this is a Missouri native that blooms really late in the fall. I mean, you can tell we're at mid-October here, and all of these are buds that haven't opened yet. So this is far from being done with its bloom. Great late season food source for pollinators. I have some in my yard. There's bees and other pollinators all over it. So we're not done with flowers just yet. And that's just a particularly showy specimen. There's actually a few clusters of it here at the entrance to the children's garden. And I don't know how well you can see off in the distance, but we're starting to put up our Christmas lights. That's actually been happening since August. So Garden Glow is expected to happen this year, and we'd encourage everybody to come out and see the Christmas lights. They're actually going to have more lights this year. The people will be socially distanced, the lights will not be. Yeah, just more yellow here from these are the white red buds.
And it certainly feels like a fall day today here in St. Louis. Over the weekend we had a little bit of heat come back, but today it's cooler, it's cloudy, it's even dropping some little drips of rain here and there on us as we walk.
And if you can see there in the back of that vehicle, one of the things the staff is doing today is actually pulling out some of those summer annuals that we had out on display. So those actually are in pots, and they're headed back to the greenhouse where they'll overwinter and then will be put out again next summer for display. Here's another really colorful sumac here on the back side of the Kemper Center for Home Gardening, along with some obedient plant and some more of the aromatic aster that's intermingled here. The yellow on this is a Katsura tree, so there's nice yellow color on this one as well. We have a few of these in the Japanese garden that get really pretty this time of year.
And again, speaking of not being done with flowers yet, these here are windflowers. And they're another late bloomer. And you can see how many of them are here. And how many buds, again, haven't even opened yet.
And more aster here in the back here. This is New England aster, a variety called Purple Dome. So this blooms a little bit earlier than the aromatic aster. So this is at or maybe a little bit past its peak in terms of the number of blooms it'll have. And more windflower there in the back too.
Oh, look at this. A re-blooming iris.
Appropriately named Autumn Tryst.
So for those who don't know, most irises bloom in early May. So it's unique to see one at this time of year.
And right ahead of us is a little bit of an example of what I was talking about with some of the maples, where you can see the color starting to turn in the top part of the canopy for this tree, and then the lower part is still mostly green. I think that's a red maple. Still lots of color here in the vegetable garden.
Yes, this has looked amazing for quite a long time now. All these marigolds are so bright.
And even here, this would be a little bit different than all the yellows and oranges and things we've seen. This is butterfly pea. Really pretty blue color. Among the things that are blooming, I think that might be some sage there in the back with all those big stalks of purple.
A lot of color still in bloom here in the Kemper Center Gardens.
It's not just flowers, it's not just foliage, there's also fruit. So this is a member of the holly family, and you can see it's just loaded up with berries right now. So all kinds of ways that plants exhibit fall interest. It may be through their colorful foliage, it could be the fact that they're late blooming and have flowers, or it could be like this where you have these really bright fruits that more than likely designed to attract birds. The birds will pick these over eventually, but a lot of times this will persist all the way into winter. So there's a nice cluster of them here, so there's just all this bright red.
Some daisies still hanging on here. Roses. We talked a little bit about how on one of our last tours, how roses will do really well in the mild fall weather here in St. Louis. Now they don't like it super cold, so once there's a frost that might change. But they do prefer those nice mild fall temperatures to our summers here. So sometimes they'll have a second bloom.
This is another fall interest. I think it's kind of neat. Again, going more towards fruit and everything. This is Magnolia grandiflora. It's an evergreen magnolia, and that's the fruiting structure, and it has all those little bright red capsules that poke out. So just another, again, the red really stands out, you know, especially when it's backdropped against the green leaves that are still on a plant. We've made our way here to the Japanese garden where there's more color. Some early color anyway. The Japanese garden is actually one of the places in the garden that holds its fall color the longest because of our large collection of Japanese maples. So we'll probably show those off a little bit more in depth on another tour. But you can see here, even just from this vantage point, we've got this persimmon tree in front of us that has the bright yellow. Again, just another tree that's got really brilliant yellow foliage. And if we walk a little bit closer here too, we can see one of the other trees that you may have seen changing color already around town, or if you gone out for a hike somewhere in a natural area, a state park. It was the native dogwood. So that's one of the first trees to change their leaf color. And this view in particular here, looking out towards the drum bridge, is really great. I'd encourage you, if you come out here to visit, take a moment to pause here and kind of just take in the scene. Another thing to kind of keep an eye out for in the fall is grasses. So that's something, especially out at Shaw Nature Reserve right now, their prairie habitats are just really stunning. And here's just an example here with these grasses here along the creek leading into the lake. As you might be able to sort of get a sense as we're walking, I mean, there is, as we've mentioned before, there is still quite a bit of green. And to me anyway, what that does is it makes the trees that have changed color pop that much more because they have something to contrast against. So while there is still quite a bit of green, it does make the fall color that has started to change really showcase itself. And here, because we have the Japanese maples, some of them are what you consider a fall color year round. You know, their leaves are burgundy or dark red all year, and so there's sort of built-in interest even before those leaves change and fall off the tree. I was admiring this view a little bit earlier today. These are some of the maples along Alfred Avenue. I'm not even sure that big one might be out on the sidewalk. And that's kind of one of the neat features of the Japanese garden, is actually the concept of borrowed landscape. So when you're taking it in, especially if you're facing west, the garden was actually designed to incorporate some of the trees from the surrounding neighborhood. And so you'll see that here is that you can even get fall color, the sense of fall color in the garden, even if it's just outside the fence in the neighborhood itself. So that one's right on the border there, along our western edge on Alfred.
Speaking of fall blooming flowers, we've got quite a few mums here, which many of you are probably familiar with. Including these, which I believe are giant versions of mums. Is that correct?
Yeah, these are also mums, but not the ones that you would be used to seeing at your local grocery store or home improvement store for sale right now. And these are actually, you know, the neat thing about mums, and one of the reasons that they flower so late in the year, is that they're actually triggered by the longer nights and shorter days. And so when we grow these mums in our greenhouses, we're actually sort of tricking the flowers into blooming for us by using shades and things to keep everything dark longer, so that it forces the mums into bloom. And so all these mums that you see here, the big ones and the nice cluster of red ones, we're all kind of given that treatment late in the summer. And then you can see up here along this wall as well, these are our cascading mums. So these are actually trained on special trellises to create this cascading effect. They're not quite in bloom yet. They probably have another week or two to go before they reach peak. But that's this particular view right here in the Japanese garden, I know is a favorite for a lot of people in fall. Not only with the mums, but this is also sort of what we call Maple Hill. So this whole stretch of trees here are all Japanese maples, and there's sort of about a 2 or 3 day period where they all change color at once, and that's a really great time to be out here. Not quite there yet,
but you can see that time is coming.
Oh yeah,
they're starting to change for sure.
So we can see some nice fall color from this vantage point on the zigzag bridge looking out over the lake. I mentioned earlier the katsura tree that we walked past in the Center for Home Gardening, so you can see one over here showing off its nice yellow color. And then the sort of bright red, a little orangish color just in front of that katsura tree is a black gum, Nyssa sylvatica. And that's actually, that tree in particular, the one that has the most color on it, was actually one that we know was planted more than 100 years ago, back when Henry Shaw was still alive. We've been able to do some core sampling and know that that tree is quite old. So I think what we're going to do now is head over to the drum bridge just to give you one other vantage point over the lake where you can kind of see the fall color that we have. And again, this is going to be a great week, especially once those temperatures start to get really cold overnight, and if we can get some sunlight here during the day. Those are really key ingredients for kind of jump starting that fall color change. If you can't tell, this is a very busy place even when we're closed to the public. So we are closed today, but the garden is open Tuesday through Sunday. And some of our indoor spaces or our sort of tighter outdoor spaces are open Thursday through Sunday. So the best days to come to really get a full sense of the garden are those Thursday through Sunday days of the week, and we would encourage you to buy tickets ahead of time to make sure that you guarantee yourself entry for that day.
And like Cassidy was saying, this is just a really great vantage point to look across the lake here and see the contrast of trees that are changing color and those that are still green as we're transitioning here from summer to fall. So we'll go ahead and end our tour here today with just this nice view here. But stay tuned because we'll be checking in on the fall color on our Facebook page and other social media. And definitely think about coming to visit sometime in the next few weeks. It's really beautiful. Thanks for tuning in, everyone.